Facebook Live.
Hey guys, Ben Labadie here, and I'm with Laura Van Veen, realtor with Remax, and we are going to be talking about tiny houses. So come on in, say hi. We want to know what you think about tiny houses, and tiny houses are kind of like 500 square feet houses, sometimes smaller.
They say anything 100 square feet and up.
Okay,
so there's some as small as 100 square feet.
Okay,
so
that's
I think it's like
tiny.
up to like 500-ish.
Yeah. So if you guys are just coming in, or hit that share button, hit that like button, ask questions. But first, before we go any further, like you're a realtor with Remax.
I am.
And how long have you been doing that?
I'm in my 7th year.
7th year.
And I worked at Remax for 2 years prior as admin as well. So I've been doing a bit of real estate stuff for 9.
But beyond real estate, you're actually quite the musician.
I am, yeah. I teach music at Chatham Music Academy. So I teach with Devin Hansen and Stephanie Garneau and a bunch of those people, and I do piano, singing are my main 2. I do a little bit of guitar in a glee club, which is fun, and then I do real estate because why not?
Okay.
Because it's so fun.
And you teach my good friend Betty Prince.
I do. I love Betty
from my program. Yeah.
I'm gonna play this for Betty afterwards because she's always like, I don't know what Ben does on the computer thing, but he talks about his computer things.
Okay, so now that we know a little bit about Laura, I'm also a realtor, so just don't send all your business her way. Share it with me.
But wait, realtors really can work together. People think we all hate each other, and we don't.
And we are going to work together right now to try to figure out this whole tiny house situation and the pros, the cons, the positives and negatives that people think. And we want to hear from you guys again what you guys think about living in a possible tiny house. So we're going to cover, I guess, the social benefits of tiny houses, and that's really where I think the tiny house movement came from in other parts of basically the United States right now, but there's parts of Canada that are doing it too. Yeah.
So I think that the biggest thing is it started as a way of it's kind of coming from the minimalism movement, right? So that's where it started from. People who want to be able to get out of debt, go have a place to live that's paid for, go travel, go do all of that good stuff. But there's a lot of other kind of means that you could use it for other than just because you want to live that lifestyle. Yeah. So, things like we were talking previously about, setting it up as homeless shelters or setting it up as, even geared to income. Different ways.
And when you look at Chatham, Kent, I know we sell houses, we help people buy houses, but you guys wouldn't believe how many calls per day or texts and messages we get about rentals.
Renting. There's no rentals in Chatham.
And we, you're sitting there and you want to help people, and it's almost impossible because there's nothing to rent. And we're always looking at how do we have more housing available. And I think tiny houses makes it not only affordable for somebody to possibly build themselves, but maybe for investors to kind of create the social housing and rental market themselves. Yeah. And I know you deal with a lot of investors that would probably be interested in stuff like that.
I do a lot of investors, and I have some income properties myself as well. So coming from a landlord perspective, huge, because they're not going to cost that much to invest in initially. Right. So you're going to cash flow quicker. Yeah. Second of all, when you have a tenant vacate and you have to turn over, you have to repaint, make sure the floors are good. Your investment there isn't going to be as great as say a 1,000 square foot apartment, because you don't need as much paint, you don't need as much labor. So to fix them up afterwards would be a little bit more cost effective as well.
And you'd probably be able to rent them out for less.
Oh yeah, for sure, which is huge, because I think we've got a little bit of a gap right now in Chatham, Kent, and I try to get people into buying as much as possible, as quickly as possible, because we can buy at such a lower price point that then your mortgage is less than what you're renting for, which is kind of unique to Chatham, I think, a little bit.
I think so.
I haven't lived a lot of other places, but I think the rent here is so kind of out of whack compared to our kind of introductory homes that people are buying. When I moved here from Guelph, I was, paying like $1,200 for rent for a basement apartment. I moved here and I bought a 4-bedroom home and was paying $450 on my mortgage. Right. So, I mean, if you could get a tiny home, you have basically a tiny little investment. you can rent them out for $450, $500. It makes it a little bit easier for people to rent it.
Yes.
You know?
So let's say hi to some people. We got Ryan Jackson. How
Hi,
you doing,
Ryan.
buddy? Your mom is
Hi, Mommy.
Art Sterling, how you doing, Art? We're going to talk to Art maybe later about his take on tiny homes.
750 homes, exactly.
So Lance Meredith, how you doing, buddy? 750 homeless people need small homes to alleviate the problem. Once people off the street, problems can be addressed. Right?
Absolutely.
It's a good one. Hey, Sue. Like if we can get, let's look at what else people would want a tiny home for. Okay. I like to travel. I like to go places and kind of, I don't think I'm a minimalist. I don't know if I could do 100 square feet or even 500 square feet.
I'm so a maximalist.
But
I don't know if I could do it, but I'd love it as a vacation.
I think it would be, as people age, they want to travel more.
Yeah.
And if you live in Canada, where we live, a lot of people are concerned about, leaving their home for the winter.
Yeah.
Right? So if you leave a tiny home, you're going to feel a little bit better than leaving a large home.
I think that's why a lot of people go into condos as it is because you can like walk and go, but this is another option that again would probably be like less expensive. Well, I mean, definitely less expensive.
Absolutely.
Than having that, and it's your own space. You can still have a garden. You have a little bit of outdoor living, which is nice. The other thing is a lot of tiny homes are on wheels. So I mean, you might not even have to if you want to just travel within U.S. Canada soil. You might be able to just hook it on and take it with you.
Absolutely.
Like an RV kind of life. It's funny actually, we had said, as much as I joke about being a maximalist because I like to shop, there was, when I first met my husband, we had like a whole thing where we're like, oh, when we're old and gray, we're going to get an RV and we're going to become RVers. And like, that's going to be like our life is just get an RV. And now I'm like, ooh, but I want it to have style. So I want it to be a tiny home.
Tiny home.
So John and I will be tiny homers when we're old. So you can pack it up and just go.
Yes.
And go follow our children everywhere because I don't want to cut that umbilical cord ever.
Right. So let's see here what we got. Hey, Jay and Karen Kirkwood White. And now Karen actually leads up a committee at the United Way, kind of looking at tiny homes. And I believe there's a tiny home builder in Wallaceburg.
Yeah.
Karen, you got to send me more information about that because I think that would be cool. And I think it actually opens up a lot of opportunities for tiny home builders.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. A lot of carpenters in the area and, like trying to get some work going on with tiny home building would be super cool to get into.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so there's a lot of opportunities for that too.
Yeah.
Nicole, how you doing? Considering our aging population and lack of retirement savings, tiny homes may be a more viable option for our seniors. Absolutely. And I think another good thing about the tiny homes is that you can probably put it all on one floor. Because how many calls do you get?
Bungalows and ranchers constantly. Hey, if anyone wants to sell their rancher right now, call me, not Ben. Because I've got some people who need some. We're always looking for bungalows and ranchers, so that would solve that.
Anything that's step-free, really. People just, they don't want to go up and downstairs anymore. And I think, you just have a little space, but you don't have to go up and down anything.
Well, and a lot of the furniture will be convertible in the tiny homes, right? So your bed would turn into your couch, so you don't necessarily have to have that loft space if you don't want as your bed, which would be cool. So,
Where is CK in terms of the status of the initiative of bringing tiny homes to our community?
So you just talked about that, so I'll let you kind of take that.
The reason actually we're talking about this today, because it is going to become a hot topic, it's been kind of growing over a period of time. But Darren Caniff, he tweeted the other day that he's bringing a motion forward on Monday to council. I don't know exactly the specifics, but it's probably looking more into tiny homes and kind of reducing the square footage of the minimum build, which I think is around 800 square feet minimum build in Chatham-Kent to look at the lower limits so that people can start at least experimenting with the idea and looking at this idea.
Yeah. So to kind of just to explain that for people who don't know like the lingo of it, there's a bylaw, and in that bylaw in Chatham-Kent is every lot has different like allotments of how big you can grow or how big you can build your house. So there's a minimum of that right now, and so what we're facing with people wanting to build tiny homes is that you can build them, but there's nowhere to put them because they're too small to put on a plot of land that you would buy.
Right.
And there's no places to rent the land just yet.
Yeah.
So it's trying to figure out where they can go. So you can build one, but where do you put it?
Yeah. It would be basically you'd be building a trailer.
It's building a trailer right now. And right now, I know some people are getting away with things by putting them on wheels, but then you have to move them. You still can't plant them anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that yet. So that's what council is starting to look at. And then the other side of it that I'm kind of wondering about, and maybe we'll hear more about that after it's brought to council, is whether we're going to be able to build the second structure and have a tiny home in a backyard. So say you've got a big lot, if you're able to then build one and say rent that out as a second source of income off of your home, whether you can have two families, two single family dwellings essentially, because you'd have the tiny home dwelling and that on one lot. Because I think that could open up a lot of possibilities for people to be able to get into home ownership because they have a rental property on premises. Also vacation rentals. Airbnb is huge now. I'm a user of Airbnb. My family has a cottage that we manage, and we rent it on Airbnb, and it's amazing. Like
my friend Rob, you probably
Rob, I'm the one who hooked him up with Airbnb.
He posted a bunch of pictures the other day of the Airbnb, and it looked
Rob, you should watch.
Very cool. It looked very cool. Let's say hi to some more people here.
See who's there.
Let's see here, Kristen. Oh yeah, we covered that one. Hamilton City Councilors Plan Committee voter.
Voted in October.
Okay, 400, no larger.
No larger than 425. That's interesting.
That's small. So there's we're going to do a little tour tomorrow, right, Karen? With the Tiny Homes Committee. Ooh. You should come.
Can I get an invite to that?
Karen, I'm inviting Laura to come.
What time is it?
We'll get more details after this. It's an initiative to be building them or on rented land or owned land. So I went to Detroit recently where they did this whole thing, and basically a church bought the whole plot of land, and then they kind of divided it up, kind of like in an experiment, and then they pretty much gave away the mortgage to people that kind of applied, and then they have to pay it back. I think what you're going to be on. The thing is, they don't want to probably make it a trailer park. So a lot of people have the concern that it's going to roll up on wheels.
And I think that's the
permanent.
difference, right? Is that if it's going to be a tiny home, and you're going to buy the plot of land and have a foundation.
You got to have a foundation, I think,
right,
to make it a real home. Or else, I think the problem then goes to what happens with the land after and stuff like that. Tiny homes is a band-aid solution to the housing crisis. I'm all for tiny homes. However, using it as an answer to affordable living is false. Not everyone would choose to live this style. So, Ryan, you're right in a lot of these things. Is that what's going to happen? Here's the thing: is that we don't know what's going to happen with tiny homes that are built 10 years from now. If we build them now, people get all jacked up about the idea, and they're like, they're trendy, they look cute, and if you see some tiny homes, they look cool. They're very cool looking. But what happens when people say, man, I like the idea, but I can't do this anymore, living in a closet. Right.
Well, and once you have kids, and once, those things are, I don't think that it is going to be for everybody. What my kind of opinion on that is, if I can put my opinion in this. So this is
your opinion on it?
Factual, but it's my opinion. I think that when it comes to homelessness, I think that it's not necessarily a permanent solution, but it's about giving people a place of refuge and a place to kind of breathe temporarily. So I have actually a very personal connection with homelessness, and I have a lot of very close members of my friends and family who have been homeless, and I've gotten their opinions on it. And what I've kind of gathered from this is that a big problem with it, and a thing that tiny homes could resolve, is that you become homeless, you have a bunch of different kind of social things out there to help you. So you have a soup kitchen, you can go and get canned food, but where do you put that canned food if all you have is backpack and you don't have a place to land? You can go and get a suit for free so that you can go and look good at a job interview, but if it's wrinkled in a backpack, how well are you going to look when you actually get there? So it's about having a place to put those things to make sure that if you go into a homeless shelter, you're living amongst everybody, you know, I've been told stories of people who had to actually tie their shoes onto their feet so that they weren't taken in the middle of the night. And I think that by having even small pods that are dedicated to somebody in that situation, until they can get on social assistance, you need an address to be able to get a social insurance kind of check. So if you don't have an address, you can't go get social assistance. So if you have an address, you can store your stuff there. You can hang your suit. You can. You don't have to tie your shoes because you're not going to be afraid that they're going to be taken and you're going to get ill from having no shoes on. So I think it's a temporary. But I think that it could be used in a way of getting the people who are in the most dire need a place of refuge until they get those other places set up, until they get an apartment, because with 750 people, you have the stats there.
We got number of households on the waiting list, 748.
And the waiting list right now, 748 people in Chatham-Kent are in
need of these
homes. These are families. Yeah. And the wait time is 3.5 years for a one bedroom.
Yeah.
So would you rather wait 3.5 years and have nothing, or would you rather have a place to at least temporarily have a dry place to collect?
Absolutely.
You know? And so I don't think that it's necessarily a place that they're going to live forever. I think it's a place in an interim. And the one thing that I had seen, I just saw it on a show, but I thought it was kind of interesting, is they did it as pods. So they had what they called like a living pod. So it was essentially like one square bedroom. Right. And that's what was in there, was one bed and a shelf. And that was it. But then they had one utility space. And that utility space was shared. So they had a kitchen, they had a bathroom in there. So the water was only being drawn to one building. And then they had like 10 pods to one kitchen. Yeah. Which made it really feasible to build. It gave 10 people shelter where, if you go and buy one gear to income house, it's going to cost the municipality probably $100,000. So you could build 10 pods. So you have one family for $100,000. Yeah. Or you have 10 pods. At least we're getting them a safe place right now. Yeah. You know, and I'm sure there's tons of legislation, and I like to kind of put like lollipops on things, but I'm like, I don't sell it for now.
And you know, a lot of people think homeless is people that have no money and stuff. Situational. But everybody, I know many people that go through transitions, and during that transition, after a breakup, a separation, a divorce. Losing a job, you take somebody and they just get thrown into a situation
so hard,
and they feel homeless, and they are technically homeless for a while, living on somebody's couch or living back with a family and that. So there's a lot of things that are included in homeless that people don't know.
And if you don't have supports, right? So let's be real here. You and I have both been through life-changing situations like that, right? So we've both been there. Financially, you have to separate everything. You start from scratch. Yes. But we have supports. Yeah. So we're both fortunate enough people that we have great families. We've got lots of friends.
And there's my mom. She said hello.
Hi. Your mom and my mom are in there. That's how supportive they are.
That's how supportive. Okay. We got the support.
But we have support. And so a lot of people that end up in homelessness, it's just that their supports aren't there. Yeah. You know? And it could be such a small thing that can completely rock your world and change your world, and sometimes it's those small transitions, right? So so it doesn't have to be a permanent solution, the tiny homes, but it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. And really, at the end of the day, time will tell what was a good idea, what was a bad idea.
Totally. Yeah.
We do know that there's a great housing shortage. We do know that there's many people that calling every day about renting something.
Calling all the time, rentals. And now, I have to say though, it is, in one way, it's getting harder to get into our market because it's gone up so much. So we've gone over 20% in the last 2 years. Since 2016 January, everybody knows, we've had a huge jump in our prices. I don't know the exact on what we're at, but around 2016, it was around 140,000, I think was the median kind of price point. I'm not sure what it is right now, but 190 I would imagine would be about the median. Could be off on that. But anyways, so people are getting priced out of our market, even though we're still so much cheaper than other areas. We're getting priced out because, you have to save way more money. You have to qualify for a lot more. One thing CMHC has done though, I don't know if you saw this, but they just made it a lot easier they put in a few new things to make it easier for self-employed, which is going to help us. Yes. Help a lot of people to get mortgages. But if you're qualifying for a $20,000 mortgage, that's a down payment.
Yeah.
In this market, you could just save the $20,000 and buy and be outright instead of using that as your down payment, right?
Absolutely.
So,
how are you guys liking this? Hey, hit the share button, hit the like button, let us know you're there, say hi. Would you live in a tiny home? Would you live in a 500 square foot?
I want to know that. Yeah, who would live there? Put your hands up right now and wave and put your little emojis.
Do a wave if you
say whether you would live there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a thumbs up.
There's a thumbs up.
Would you live there, Beth?
I think I could do it for a little bit.
I think I'm with you there.
Because
I'd like to know. I see Jonathan's on there right now. I think Jonathan's on there. Anyways, okay, my mom's on there. Mom, do you think I could live in a tiny home? I want to see if you guys think we could live in a tiny home.
Yeah. Like I love traveling, and the best thing I like about traveling is the hotel room.
Yeah.
Right? And it's always neat to me, always a kind of a fun experience. My kids love hotel rooms.
We love Airbnbs.
Right.
So that would be great.
I haven't done the Airbnb thing too much, but I'm looking at maybe doing something like that in Nashville or something at the end of August.
We just did Port Stanley this weekend, and it's great to go see how like other places are living and different things like that. Jonathan, what do you think, honey? Do you think that we
thumbs up?
Do you give me a thumbs up because you think we could do it, or do you think that I would kill you?
Let's see. Tiny houses are a great idea for affordable housing. Yeah, absolutely. Now, who would lend out the money on a tiny house? So that's another
thing. Okay, so where we're at, I can talk from a real estate perspective a little bit about this with trailer park home. So it's a little different. A lot of people go into trailer park homes thinking, oh, I can just get a mortgage.
And that's on the leased land.
This is great, right? Because it's only going to cost $80,000. So they go into these trailer park homes, which I have to say, in Chatham, like the trailer park homes are awesome, a lot of them.
I always thought
they're awesome, man. Like they're great. So they go in there and they think $80,000. John says my shoes take up 100 square feet. I think you're right, dear. Anyways, so you go in and you think you can go get a mortgage on it, but the thing is, it's actually a chattel.
Yeah.
A trailer. So that's the difference, because a trailer is a chattel, so it's like more like buying a car that way, and then you're leasing the land. So you're paying. Just like as if you're paying rent, you're leasing that land.
Right.
So it's harder to get financed on that because it's not a traditional home that you're buying the land, because they don't have anything if you don't pay.
Yeah.
They don't have as much to take back, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it comes down to. So I feel like in a tiny home situation, what we need to find out from municipality is this going to be a land lease situation, because it's going to be harder to mortgage then? Or is it going to be you buy a plot of land, you can build a tiny home?
Right.
Which in that case, I don't see why mortgage companies wouldn't. So
let's see here. Karen Kruger.
I would like one for a woman cave, right?
A woman cave.
You know what? A she shed. Build a she shed. They'll be awesome in the back.
Hey, Brian Jakes, how you doing? Okay, so Bianca Bondi. Such a great topic. Tiny house is fantastic idea. I'm from Chatham and living in Guelph currently, and rent here is insane.
I lived in Guelph for 4 years. It is, but it's a gorgeous town.
It keeps on rising. So many homeless and people in crisis.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of great opportunities with that to maybe move back and especially reduce rent. Mm-hmm. Don, how you doing, buddy? I think Don just put his name in for running for council today.
Cool.
I think I seen his Facebook Live, actually.
Oh.
Good stuff. Maybe we'll have him on here. I don't know, Don. Will you come on? Let us know if you guys would go into a tiny house. Mm-hmm. I think the main thing would be to have a foundation to make it a real house.
I think that's what it has to be.
And the way I kind of envision the tiny houses happening is you take 3 or 4, like a big lot, and you divide it into 3.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
So you see these lots, and then you can put 3 houses on, and I guess that's where it comes down to.
Is whether they would sever the lots.
Right, and that's what they'll probably have to talk about, is that can an investor, so example, it's going to be probably investor driven.
I think so.
Right, so the investor comes in, he buys a plot of land, he puts in, or he or she, okay?
Thank you.
They put 3 tiny houses on a property.
Yeah.
All right, and then they divide it up.
Right.
Okay, and then they can sell off piece by piece, or rent to own, or rent them out if they want. But being able to sell that would be ideal.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Okay, so like in general, also it's so for me, I have one building that has 2 commercial units and then a residential unit upstairs. And the nice thing about having more than one is if you've rented 2, you're okay, right?
Yeah.
You're always going to have vacancies. So if you could have 3 tiny homes, or even for the vacation rental that we manage for my family, like if I was saying to you earlier, right now we can rent the cottage all summer long because it's in Erie Beach. We rent that out and that's great, but it rents it so quickly. And if we could have a tiny home, we have a big plot of land. If you could have a tiny home in the back as well and shared land, I mean, then you're almost doubling your money on it. So from an investment standpoint, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It would be awesome, especially if you could do more than one on a plot of land. That's the big kicker from an investment standpoint.
Another thing is that do we see a tiny house subdivision in the future? Right, because I think the problem that you're going to have for sure is that when somebody buys a piece of land with the idea of tiny houses, the neighbors aren't going to be too sure. Sometimes they're going to be like, "Oh, what's it going to do to my property value?" Hey, Marjorie Crew, how you doing? Hey, Marjorie, Dawn, what do you guys think of tiny houses? Are you for them? Because if you guys are both running for council.
Peggy said also, my mom, she had just posted, she'd love to hear from a lender. If anybody out there, any of our mortgage counselor friends or online, pipe in. Yeah. What do you guys think about lending? Do you think you'd lend to that? I think that it also comes down to the 2 separate things of lending, of if you are going to buy a plot of land and build one, or if you're lending to you already own one and you want to build it, then I think it would just be you take it out of your mortgage upon renewal. Yeah. For improvements and call it an improvement. But so. But anyways, if there's any lenders out there. Yeah, because that would be definitely interesting on how. Be interesting to know. Yeah, because they're small. The land would be pretty much the value. The worth, and that's hard from a lender perspective. Yeah. So I think I would love to see, now in Detroit, when I went to Detroit, it was a little subdivision. Yeah. And so, I mean, the area was not so nice. Yeah. Okay, so getting to the area, and in Detroit, you can get a property there for $1,000. Yeah. So you can get houses. The only problem is that it's not worth $1,000, right? Because the area is so bad. You can't sell it. If you build it, it's not going to work out too well for you. But when you look at it, and there is a video. I'll post a video after about this little subdivision because it is a really, it's one of those viral things that nowadays, and it looks really cool. But it's so cool to kind of wander around these tiny houses. It's almost like the children's village. The children's village? Yeah. I mean, that's what it kind of... Actually, that would probably be the same... Probably the same size. Same size. Right? 100 square feet, 200 square feet. And I think more, if you can put 2 or 3 on a piece of land, you're going to be styling. Yeah. Especially for rentals. And then what's good about Chatham-Kent is that we got water everywhere. Yeah. All right. And that also opens up an opportunity for, like you were talking earlier, about vacation rentals are the key right now. And that would be good for tourism. Again, you have to open up the land a little bit and kind of figure out what you're going to do there. Yeah. But I think how cool. And there's a lot of communities that have similar things like cabins, right? And they just have a bunch of cabins, and that's what they call them right now. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same kind of idea that way. Why couldn't you have a pavilion of that? But I think a subdivision is a great idea. And maybe we'll see. Who knows? Maybe we'll see in the future a developer buying a chunk of farmland and separating them and banging out and be like, hey, this is the tiny home subdivision. Yeah. And it would be really cool to see. So a tiny house on the Lake Erie Bluffs is my dream home. Dream for me as well. Well, but I want a little bit of a cottage. But yeah. Foundation really cool. For sure. Lots of homeowner owned. I would think up to 600 square feet. There are many of us that would like a new energy efficient home with upgrades for a new minimalist lifestyle. Yeah. But and totally think about how much energy you're using to power your house. And how much you'd have to use. You could be off of probably 1 or 2 solar panels and call it a day. Easy, right? So who was that? Terry Fenton. So hi, Terry. Don would be very much in favor of affordable housing. He didn't say tiny houses, but let's get Shelley. Yeah, and there are many uses that can be looked at for tiny homes, low-income senior communities, homeless housing, first plans. Yeah, so there's tons of opportunities. I really like the idea of the vacation rentals, the Airbnb opportunities. Yeah. And a lot of people, they want to have a second house. Yeah. Right? But they can't afford a second home. Yeah. Or they can't afford the cottage.
This kind of makes that possible.
Makes it a lot more
right?
possible.
Because they're not spending all year there.
Yeah.
They're not spending all their money there. But it's a great opportunity for them to have something.
To own it, to not be also like, a lot of people will go get trailers and then they'll be part of the trailer park and they have to pay certain dues, and those dues go up every year. And if you got to own the land and own the place, you know you're secured. You know all of that stuff isn't going to go up and hike up on you later on. Yeah. So that's nice. The only thing you have to worry about is property taxes, but
yeah, and that's another thing. What are they?
That's a whole other subject. Let's not talk about property taxes.
Yeah, we'll get a counselor on here. Yeah. If somebody wants to be on council, we'll grill them on property taxes.
We'll interview about these property taxes we're dealing with.
So,
filters.
Do you guys have any real estate questions for Laura while she's here?
Or for you.
Or for me, but you're in the hot seat today. So, we're going to make sure that if they're hard questions, we'll throw them your way.
Okay.
If they're softballs,
I'm
I'll
the brains,
answer.
he's the brawn.
Yeah. Because we've kind of covered a lot. Is there anything anybody else would like us to kind of look at? So we got the positive social effects,
yes.
Which would be there.
Okay, let's talk about negative social effects. Let's think about that. We haven't thought about that yet.
Well, the negative social effects, I think, are basically from the perspective.
I think
from
so too.
others. So a lot of times you're going to see a perspective from others that are going to say, hey, I don't, want low income. Because you say low income housing, everybody gets a little bit snooty.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, they do.
And they don't want low income housing near them. They think low income housing is bad. It's going to reduce their property value. And you hear it all the time, no matter where.
Okay, so we're going back to the tiny homes as a refuge.
As
a refuge.
Well, we're looking at the perspective, because
yeah.
people will say, well, that's not going to solve the housing crisis or homelessness.
Right.
I mean, it all helps, okay? More housing just helps. But I think that's one of the challenges for council or anybody bringing the motion forward. Like,
so where do they go?
Is where are they going to put them, right? Mm-hmm. So if you plop them anywhere, you're going to have some angry neighbors.
John and I had a discussion about this over coffee just a few days ago, and a lot of times when homelessness gets out of control, they start popping up tent communities.
Yep.
And then people get really mad about that because there's tons of them. So why does it have to be one specific place?
Right.
If they're tiny homes, they could be dispersed in different vacant. There's so many little vacant parking lots and areas that could be changed into something.
Yeah.
In Chatham-Kent, and so maybe they don't have to all be in a subdivision. They can, just as our geared to income housing is right now. You never know which places are. You don't know. Yeah. Which there's a house. I'm on Victoria Ave, and I think just a few doors down there's one.
They're all over the place.
They're all over, so you don't know. So I think that's just something that goes into people's heads.
But I think if you can change the conversation to not just low income housing or affordable housing,
right?
But when you start saying second homes, vacation rentals, Airbnb, opportunity, investment, people all of a sudden
I think
this is a good idea.
Positives than there are negatives right now.
Yeah.
So John just said, I'd like it if I could have a tiny home for a family if they need a place to stay. You never know when a medical emergency can come up, and that's kind of where. So John has this kind of dream of building these for people in need, and I think that's a huge thing. Also, we were talking about if you could have two properties on one lot, if you could do basically make that as a granny flat.
Right.
So right now, I mean, you can do like a cottage house at the back of your house. You have to go through the proper legislation to get there and build it. But if your lot allowances allow for it and you get the proper permits, you can build that. So this would be a matter of whether you can do one small enough and have that. But it would be nice to just have them anywhere as a place to stay, right? Instead of having an apartment for your kids when they go to college. Have a tiny home, or for emergencies, people can just know that. Cool. One thing that I actually talked about that was just kind of an out there idea is, so we used to have block parents. I think there's still block parents.
I have a sticker in that window from whoever was in this office before.
So one thing I was saying is, if there was tiny homes allowed on your property in the back, why couldn't you have a tiny home refuge as a block parent refuge? I think it's a service you obviously have to be signed up for and everything. But if somebody really needs shelter that night, know that you're a safe house, that you can knock on the door and you've got a tiny house out back that, hey, yeah, buddy, you need some help tonight? Go ahead, take a stay. Kind of a cool concept. It's obviously something that has to be, looked at from every angle, but kind of could be something cool. So
Shelley Arnold, could they go on brownfield sites? Well, I think that's an opportunity for the future. Again, you got to take, anytime you got a brownfield, I mean, you got time, you have to clean up the area, you got your environmental site assessments, which generally take up time, but after that, and money.
A lot of money.
But a lot of times when you look at brownfields, there's a lot of government funding for that to help out, because nobody wants a brownfield. There's brownfields everywhere, but I think it's always worth looking at. I never say no, like impossible. Like if you ever look at a brownfield, and if you think that's going to be a brownfield forever, like I know the Navistar property, and when it comes to a sportsplex, people, oh, well, it can never happen. Well, people do it everywhere else.
But yeah, things can happen.
If that property was in downtown Toronto, how fast do you think that would be cleaned up?
Oh, it would be cleaned up. Yeah. It
would have been cleaned up yesterday,
Absolutely.
right? So I think that's actually a good idea. You find these areas because
these areas nobody wants to touch.
Right, the areas that don't want to touch. But I mean, well, anytime you see investors, they always look at the properties that nobody else wants, and they see gold in them, right?
Absolutely.
So that's an opportunity there. So. The initiative could be great, partnership between all three sectors, business, government, and nonprofit. Absolutely. So, and the thing is that, Karen, a lot of people, when we say the nonprofit and the low income, that's what scares a majority of people.
Yeah.
Right? So, yes, that is probably the most important thing, but we also have to make sure that everybody sees the opportunity of having one of these for themselves as a second home option, because then you're changing the conversation a little bit. If you say, nonprofit, low income all the time, people
get scared off, and they think all of a sudden,
But if you think about it in terms of for them, then and you change the conversation a little bit, and that's all you got to do, and then people start warming up on the idea that basically tiny houses are for everyone, and everybody can use them. A lot of people now, younger people, are growing up with this minimalist lifestyle, right? And it's a very difficult thing to do, say, if you're from Chatham-Kent, because we have so much land. Everybody kind of grew up with a bigger yard.
Yep.
There's not many condos, that are small. When you go to Toronto or even Japan or other countries, it's all tiny, right? They have no problem living in a tiny house.
That's what they're used to.
Right?
Yeah.
But for us, where we're so used to all this space and openness, that it's a little bit...
Well, let's be real though. Like, we look at dorm rooms. I don't know if you lived in a dorm room. I lived in a dorm room for 2 years while I was in college, and they're no bigger than a tiny home, probably smaller. So I mean, like, why can't we use them for student housing? Why couldn't we use them for? There's a lot of other ways we could use them than just the stereotypical. Hey, I want to buy a tiny home because I want to live kind of an indie lifestyle.
Right.
So there's a lot of different ways you could look at it.
Okay, so we got Ryan Jackson, low-income housing, helped my family in a big way.
Awesome.
Along with the affordable home ownership program.
Yes, I remember you guys using that. I helped you with your house.
Went from geared income to ownership. Wasn't easy, but it's possible. Totally. Tiny homes can be a starting point. Great.
And you guys were fortunate that you got in while the market was so low. So now the problem as realtors that we're finding is a lot of people who have been trying to get into houses for the last year or two have been saving. Now they're priced out. So I have a few buyers that I've worked with, great families, been working hard, can't get into a house because the market's changing on them too quickly that they can't catch up. So
that's right. Not all about low income. I'm planning for being an empty nester soon. I find my three-bedroom condo too big. So she's finding a condo being too big. So anything else we want to add to this? Anything else you guys want to question us on? Because I think we've kind of covered for the most part this first part of it, really. Because I think
I'd like to make another conversation once we hear from, once House has kind of gone through everything and we see what happens. I mean, I know I personally have a friend who wanted to do a tiny home. I sold her house 2 years ago, I'd say probably, and she wanted to about a year before that sell her house and build a tiny home, but she couldn't. And for her, it was an ability issue. Because she's sick and she didn't want to have a big house. She wanted to minimize, and she was like, oh, I could totally still have a place if it was a tiny home.
Right.
And unfortunately, we weren't allowed to. She wasn't allowed to anywhere, so we lived in the trailer park and everything, but then it comes into the land lease, and then that was going to cost her more than her mortgage on our house, so I think it could be a great option for a lot of people, whether it's one that they're choosing or one that they're kind of, wanting us just a refuge either way. So absolutely, guys, conversation needs changing. Yes, it's great for low income, but so many uses for everyone.
Absolutely. I always tell my parents, you gotta get a tiny house so you can buy another house in Vegas so they can live there most of the year.
Yeah, well, a lot of people, you know, they'll do that. You know, my mom's an example. They sold their house and they live out on the water now in a 2-bedroom cottage out in Lakeshore, and love it because there's not as much maintenance, and my parents aren't old. I'm saying you're not old by any means.
Points.
They're not old by any means, but they chose that lifestyle, and they're kind of going, hey, like, why would we want to have a big place on Baldoon or where, you know, their last place that they were at?
Absolutely.
Instead, go to that. So a lot of people might just go into the tiny home road, because then we're looking at buying a place that's, you know, 20-30, park it out by the water. How glorious would that be?
So, hey guys, we're going to wrap up now, but hit the like button. If you're watching the replay, and we can probably respond, or I'll make Laura respond to your questions. But we're probably going to have this further, we're going to do this again after we know a little bit more. We're going to learn a little bit more with Karen in that little tour, and get back to you guys. But do us a favor, the share button. That helps us out big time. Get this kind of conversation out there. Helps me out big time as well.
And make sure, once the tiny homes becomes a thing, make sure to call me for your real estate needs. Laura Veen.
Just call me. I'll forward all the business her way.
You can just send me the referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so thank you guys very much. Thanks for your input. Thanks for the comments and opinions. I hope we've kind of covered some stuff for you guys to give you a little bit of perspective on how everything might go. And we'll probably be back in the next couple of weeks if you don't mind.
Yeah, once you hear or anything about it, we'll keep an eye on it.
We're always trying to learn more as realtors and such. So we will talk to you guys soon. Laura, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Cool.